Hello and welcome. Find your comfortable place of rest now, letting your body settle into a feeling of peace and stillness. Let your eyes gently close. Imagine your thoughts for today are like a ship that has been sailing on a vast ocean. And now, at the end of the day, that ship has come back to a calm, quiet harbor. Allow it to gently drop its anchor, feeling the stillness and safety of being home. Let's take a slow, deep breath in, imagining the clean, cool air of the harbor at dusk. And as you exhale, feel your body releasing the tensions of its long journey. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw relax. Tonight's story, another beautiful parable told by Jesus, is also about a journey. It is a story about leaving home, but more importantly, about the incredible, unconditional love that is always waiting for our return. Our story begins on a beautiful, thriving family estate, full of lush pastures and ancient olive groves that shimmered silver in the afternoon sun. A wealthy, kind-hearted father lived here with his two sons. The older son was dutiful and hardworking, always present in the fields. The younger son was full of a different kind of energy, a restless yearning for the wider world. One day, the younger son approached his father, his eyes full of a mixture of respect and impatient desire. He said, "Father, give me the share of the property that is coming to me." It was a bold and in many ways a heartbreaking request. It was as if he was wishing his father were already gone. But the father, full of a sad, understanding love, did not argue. He simply nodded and divided his wealth between his two sons. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had, a heavy bag of coins that felt like freedom in his hands, and he set off on a journey to a distant country. As he walked away, he did not look back. His heart was set on the promise of adventure, on a life of his own making, far from the familiar routines of home. In that far-off country, life was a whirlwind of excitement. The son spent his money freely, indulging in every pleasure the glittering city had to offer. He made many new friends who laughed at his jokes and were eager to share in his wealth. For a time, he felt truly alive, the master of his own destiny. But fortunes, like the weather, can change. The son spent his last coin just as a severe famine struck the land. Suddenly, the laughter faded. His new friends disappeared as quickly as his money had. He was left completely alone, a stranger in a starving country. Hunger became his constant companion, a dull, aching emptiness that gnawed at him day and night. In desperation, he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. For a boy from a good Jewish family, this was the ultimate humiliation. He was so hungry that he would have gladly filled his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. And it was there, in the filth of the pigsty, surrounded by the stench of despair, that the story says he came to himself. The haze of his reckless living finally cleared, and for the first time in a long time, he saw his situation with absolute, painful clarity. He remembered his father's house. He thought to himself, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, and I here am dying of hunger? A profound realization washed over him. The home he had so eagerly abandoned was a place of abundance and kindness, even for the lowest of servants. The memory of his father's gentle face, a face he had tried so hard to forget, now came to him not with judgment, but with the warmth of a distant, comforting light. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited in his heart. A new plan began to form in his weary mind. He whispered to himself in the quiet twilight of the field, I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. He continued his quiet rehearsal. Treat me as one of your hired servants. He did not expect forgiveness. He did not expect to be restored to his old life. All he hoped for was mercy, a simple place to work and bread to eat. And so, with this humble, repentant plan, he got up from the dirt and began the long, long journey home. And so he began the long walk home. Each step was a quiet battle between his deep shame and his fragile hope. The road was dusty and unfamiliar now, seen not through the eyes of an excited youth, but through the weary eyes of a man returning from defeat. With every mile, he quietly rehearsed the words he would say to his father. The phrases became a rhythmic, sorrowful chant, a mantra of his repentance. He felt a gnawing fear that the door to his own home might be closed to him forever, that his father might justly turn him away. Yet underneath that powerful fear, a tiny, fragile seed of hope kept him moving forward. It was the hope of a warm meal, of a safe place to rest, and the faint, almost unimaginable possibility of simple mercy. Now, the story gently shifts its focus. It takes us back to the Father's house, to a quiet vigil of love. For all the days and nights that the Son was away, the Father had not forgotten him, not for a single moment. Every evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the old man would walk to a place on his land that overlooked the long, winding road. And he would watch, and he would wait. He wasn't waiting for a debt to be repaid or for an apology. He was simply waiting for a silhouette, for the familiar shape of his lost son against the evening sky. His love was a patient, watchful sentinel, never giving up hope. And then, one evening, it happened. While his son was still a great way off, a small, weary speck on the distant horizon, the father saw him. Perhaps it was a trick of the light at first, a tired old man's hopeful imagination. But he leaned forward, his old eyes straining to see past the hazy twilight. There was something in the way the distant figure walked, a familiar posture, a certain rhythm to his step, even in utter weariness and defeat. And in an instant, a jolt of recognition pierced his heart like a lightning bolt. It was him, his son. His son had come home. There was something in the way the distant figure walked, a familiar posture, a certain rhythm to his step, even in utter weariness and defeat. And in an instant, a jolt of recognition pierced his heart like a lightning bolt. It was him, his son. His son had come home. He ran and he threw his arms around his son's neck, a son who was thin and ragged and smelled of hardship and pigsties. And he hugged him tightly, and he kissed him, not with the kiss of judgment, but with a kiss of pure, unconditional welcome. In that single embrace, years of pain and worry and distance just melted away. And the son, overwhelmed by this unexpected flood of love, began his rehearsed speech. He said, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father wasn't really listening to the words of shame. He was only listening to the sound of his son's voice. He had his son back. That's all that mattered. The father cut him off, turning to his servants who had hurried to the scene, their faces a mixture of confusion and astonishment. And the father said, his voice full of a joyful urgency, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him." He did not want his son to bear the rags of his past for a moment longer. He wanted to cover his shame with honor. "And put a ring on his finger," the father continued, "a symbol that he is not a servant, but a true and honored member of this family once more. And bring shoes for his feet, for his journey of hardship is over. He is standing now on the safe ground of home. And bring the fatted calf and kill it," he declared, "and let us eat and celebrate." His voice was not just happy, it was overflowing with relief and love as he explained, "For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And so a quiet, joyful celebration began to fill the old house with the sounds of soft music and gentle laughter. Meanwhile, the older son was out in the field, finishing his day's work, just as he always did, under the fading light of the setting sun. He was the dutiful son, the responsible one, who had never caused his father a single day of worry. As he was approaching the house, tired from the long day, he heard the sounds of music and celebration. He paused, confused by the unexpected festivity. This was not an ordinary evening. So he called one of the young servants over and asked him what all the commotion was about. And the servant, his face beaming with the happy news of the house, replied, "Your brother has come home. And your father was so overjoyed, he has killed the fatted calf because he has received him back safe and sound." But when the older son heard this, he was not filled with joy. He was filled with a hot, bitter anger, a deep and painful sense of injustice. All these years he had worked, he had obeyed, he had been the good son. And now for the brother who had squandered his inheritance and disgraced the family, there was a party. He stood outside in the growing darkness, his arms crossed, and he refused to go in. His father, noticing his absence from the celebration, came out to find him. He stood with his older son in the cool night air and pleaded with him to come inside and share in the family's joy. But the older son answered his father, his voice tight with years of unspoken resentment. "Look, all these years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends." "But when this son of yours came," he said, unable to even call him his brother, "the one who has devoured your property with wild living, for him you killed the fatted calf?" The pain in his voice was real. He felt unseen, unappreciated, and his perfect record felt meaningless in the face of this extravagant grace. And the father said to him, his voice not angry, but full of a deep, patient love, "My son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours." He gently reminded his older son of his secure place in the family. His inheritance was safe, his position never in doubt. "It was fitting to celebrate and be glad," the father explained softly, "for this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found." And here the story gently fades, leaving us in the quiet of that starlit night. It's a story with two sons, both of whom, in their own way, are a little lost. One was lost to a distant country, and the other, perhaps, was lost at home in his own feelings of duty and resentment. But the heart of the story isn't the sons, it's the father. A father who watches the horizon, who runs to embrace, who celebrates what was once lost and is now found. As you rest now, let the quiet peace of that father's love be a comforting blanket for you. It's a story that reminds us that home is not a place we earn through perfection, but a place of grace we can always return to, no matter how far we've journeyed. There is a love that celebrates our return more than it condemns our departure. So let go of the day now. Let go of any feelings of being lost or of falling short. Just allow yourself to be found here in this moment of perfect quiet and rest. Drift now into a deep and wonderfully restorative sleep. Rest